Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone to Wat Tung. Welcome. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students here to be able to help them understand the path to enlightenment. This individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to attain enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is a permanent mental state that you can train your mind to experience, where you no longer experience any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. Oftentimes people think that it's outside world that's causing these feelings. You might think that your mom and dad are annoying you, or your brothers and sisters are frustrating you, or maybe you think your boss is irritating you. This isn't actually true. It's the mind itself that causes these feelings, and the Buddha figured out what is inside the mind that actually causes these feelings, and then he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to uproot these out of the mind so that then you can experience the peace and the joy. So I come together with students each week to be able to help them understand the path to enlightenment. And then we have various courses and retreats and various resources like books, videos, podcasts, personal guidance, things like this. And everything's available for you at no cost to be able to learn how to gradually move your way towards this enlightened mental state. So whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly, welcome to all of you guys here and everybody online. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a guided meditation. And then afterwards, I'm going to share a little bit of teachings of the Buddha with you. And then I'm just going to open up to any and all questions that you have. On Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This Sunday, we're actually in chapter 24, which is titled Misunderstandings of the Teachings of the Buddha. Because over the last 2,500 years since his death, there's been many changes that people have made to his teachings. And those are misunderstandings of his teachings. And the Buddha suggested and advised us not to change his teachings. But oftentimes people don't understand that that's what he actually taught. Because once you change a Buddhist teachings, it's no longer effective to be able to help you actually make your way to enlightenment. So in this book, I share many of the common misunderstandings that you will see in the world about the teachings of the Buddha. For example, one of the things you might have seen is rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. If you've seen these kinds of things, this isn't from the Buddha. So you won't see those kinds of things here. What I'm going to do is, like I mentioned, guide you in a meditation session first, and then we'll open up to questions afterwards. The meditation that we're going to be doing today is called loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's essentially going to help you to rewire the mind to be more loving and kind. What loving kindness is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Active goodwill towards others without judgment, where you're not judging whether someone deserves your love or not, but instead you can just train your mind to be loving and kind with all beings around you. Right now, you probably have a certain amount of anger, hostility, or bitterness, or frustration, or resentment even towards other beings. This is all being caused by one's own mind. You can actually eliminate this out of the mind through training of the mind. Gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress will lead to improvement to the condition of your mind, and then it leads to improvement in the way that you interact with other people. So this meditation that we're going to be doing, as I mentioned, is called Loving Kindness Meditation. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be starting with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. If you would like to do this chanting with us, there's laminated sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to be able to chant along if you like. For those of you guys online, you can get access to this by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books. And if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see the daily chanting sheet there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they were able to remember the teachings. This was a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. We use it today to help us ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used as a learning tool or as a learning device. So like I mentioned, there aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. So if you choose to chant this along with me, it's helping you to ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. And it's important that you don't see it as anything other than that, because that's really all that it is. If you look at the English translation, because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego or arrogance if somebody did this. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that ego. You don't put yourself above people and look down on other people. And you also don't put yourself below people either. So the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and handed out chants and said, here, chant this to me, right? But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is enlightenment. And this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you. They were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart. You might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. So if you'd like to chant them on the way into the meditation, you're more than welcome to, and you'll see more benefit out of the meditation itself, because it kind of helps prepare your mind for the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to give you some guidance on what's called breathing mindfulness meditation, where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. This is a meditation where we're going to be focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off, let it go, and bring the mind back to the breath. We're just going to do this for a short period of time in order to prepare the mind for loving kindness meditation. After that period of time of quietness where we're just kind of meditating using breathing mindfulness meditation, you're going to hear me come in with some affirmations where I'm going to be saying things like, may I be peaceful, or may I be safe, may I be well, may I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. You do this on the out breath. You repeat it in your mind. I'm going to be saying it out loud because I'm guiding you guys, but you would like to repeat this in the mind. And then we're going to move on to a next ring where there's going to be more phrases. Things like, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. When you're doing this meditation, you're essentially rewiring your mind to be more loving and kind. We're not trying to change mom and dad through this meditation. That's not actually possible. You can't change other people through a meditation. And we're not invoking some special power, to come and change other people on our behalf. That's not what we're doing here. What this is doing is it's changing your mind to think of mom and dad and others you'll see as we go through this meditation in a more loving and kind way. So that now, with that in your mind, when you're around these people, you can be more loving and kind. That's where the real transformation is occurring in your life. The meditation is important, and you need to be able to meditate in order to train your mind. But the real change is in your day-to-day life when you go out into the world and you start interacting with people. Can you be loving and kind? Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your day-to-day interactions with others, that's all just going to come back to you. This is the cause and effect, or action and result. Based on decisions that you're making, you're going to experience certain results. So if you can train your mind to be more loving and kind, and then your intentions, your speech, and your actions can emanate from this loving kindness, this is where you're going to see transformation in your relationships. So we're going to go through this period of time where we're going to start with I, meaning this being who you are. We're going to go through several successions of various rings, and we're going to eventually get to all beings, right? And then from there, we're going to end up going back to breathing mindfulness meditation, and then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class and just kind of share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, and then open up to whatever questions you have. The way that I think about this meditation is I kind of think about it like a loving kindness sandwich. You've got loving kindness in the middle, and then you've got the lettuce and tomato, which is like the breathing mindfulness meditation on each side of that. Then the bread holding it all together, this is the chanting. Okay, so this is kind of the structure of the meditation I'm going to walk you guys through. In terms of your body position for meditation, There's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment, because your body can't be in the same position permanently. It's not possible. You live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing. This loving kindness meditation, we usually do this in the seated, lying, and standing positions. We usually don't do this in the walking position. So I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position, because this is a position that oftentimes people are learning in. You could be sitting on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit, because all of our bodies are different and we're going to find different things to be comfortable. So I'm going to share some guidance with you, but these are just suggestions or recommendations for you to consider. You can use what I'm sharing with you, but you can also use anything else too. If you figure out something that helps this body to be comfortable, then use it. Because it's important that the body's comfortable, not luxurious and not painful, but in the middle where it's comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften the seat a bit. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This helps to get the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And then is same thing for anybody who's sitting in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive and uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only does it help to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it's also going to make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do the chanting on the way in, which you guys are welcome to join in on. Then I'm going to come back in with some guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these phrases in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะโพตังมหาคะวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาตัมโมดามังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. As I was sharing at the beginning, this individual that we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. Not only will you eliminate all those discontent feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, but also the mind will experience a high degree of focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because what the Buddha discovered is that the mind has certain pollutions in the unenlightened state. And when you understand what those pollutions are and you use the tools and techniques to uproot them, the mind will start performing optimally. That's why by the time you get to enlightenment, the mind will be focused. You'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, that they're at ease, that you don't have this bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind any longer. And because you're not putting that out, it's not coming back to you in your relationships. And loving kindness meditation is an important part of that. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have a bad mood. It's physically impossible for the mind to experience a bad mood. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. He doesn't say that at all in his teachings. He says that it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you can see this to be true because everything in your life has been that way. That whether it's to learn to read, write, or speak a certain language, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Or maybe there's some job or occupation that you have that it's required you to have gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. That's how you grow and develop in the world. And the things that I'm sharing with you here about the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you, because nothing that the Buddha taught is based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing in this life in order to train your mind to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll be living an ideal life. You'll be enjoying all aspects of your life. That probably isn't true for you right now, but that's what you can accomplish through this inner growth, this inner development. And in order to accomplish that, you need to be able to cultivate wisdom. And that's the reason why there's no belief in his teachings. Where with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You need to get to wisdom where you know the truth about how the world truly functions and about how your mind is functioning as well. We might think of the teachings of the Buddha like a self-help program where he's helping you to be able to understand the world around you, how your mind's functioning, and then you can train this mind in order to uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. So this breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation are two important components to be able to move the mind to enlightenment, but there's other things you would need as well in order to be able to move your mind to enlightenment. It's not just meditation that would be able to do that. The thing that the Buddha discovered at the heart of his teachings, the very first teaching that he shares, is he discovers that it's your own mind that's causing these discontent feelings, that oftentimes we blame these feelings on other people. Like I mentioned, you might think it's your mom and dad that are making you angry or sad, or your brothers and sisters are frustrating you, or your boss is annoying you. But this isn't actually true. It's one's own mind that's causing this, where the mind has longing, yearning. It has craving, desire, attachment. The mind is craving, wanting, and expecting things to be a certain way. And if the mind gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants or what it expects, then the mind experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So as long as an individual doesn't understand this, they will tend to blame their feelings on other people. When you experience those painful feelings, if you firmly believe that they're coming from something external, you will tend to be unskillful. You'll tend to push people away out of your life, or you'll push a situation out of your life. You might have noticed that you've done this from time to time, where you've pushed friends or family members out of your life. But you can see that this didn't solve your problem because you still get angry, you still get frustrated. If that person was the true cause of your discontent feelings when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful from that point forward. Or the other thing the mind will do when it doesn't understand that these feelings are actually coming from your own mind is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being, trying to force that being to do things your way through fear. Or the third thing that you might do when you don't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings is you might start putting your expectations on people, try to control them or pressure them into doing things your way. And in fact, people might actually be doing this to you, pushing you away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or putting expectations on you. As long as individuals continue to do this, they'll never be able to live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something that is different than what you want or what you expect, because we live in an impermanent world, but yet the mind craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. So, for example, if you get really happy and excited when it's sunny outside, when it rains, you'll be frustrated or irritated or annoyed. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. It just went from sun to rain. It's just change. But the mind craves permanence. It wants things and expects things to be a certain way. And if you base your happiness on the sun, well, the sun is not permanent. So that's why your happiness is not permanent. That's why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, because the mind is forming its feelings of happiness based on something that is not permanent, something that is impermanent. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. Again, the only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. But the mind craves permanence. It doesn't understand it lives in an impermanent world. So if you continue to allow your mind to form these feelings based on this thing, then that means that thing is not permanent. So when it changes, your mind is going to be discontent. And what the mind will typically do is blame this on other people. But you can see in these two examples, there's no other person even involved. It's just sun to rain, or your bank account went from here to here, right? There's no other person actually involved. But let me share a few things, a few examples of situations where there are people involved. Let's just say you bought a brand new car. You were so excited about this brand new car, and you drove it off the parking lot of the dealership, and you parked it at a store, and you went inside, and you came out, and there's a scratch on your car. Well, if you get angry or frustrated when you see that scratch, it's not the scratch that's causing that anger and frustration. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting this car to look permanently beautiful, when in reality, this car is not permanent. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. This car is going to change. But if you crave permanence, which is what the unenlightened mind does, you'll be frustrated or annoyed when you see this scratch on the car. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because obviously when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to deteriorate over time. And if the mind craves permanence, then you're going to experience discontentedness when you see that impermanence, when you see that change. Or let's just say you went to Thailand and you were on your way to the airport and you were interested in going to Thailand. Maybe you were so excited to go to Thailand, you just couldn't wait to get here. Well, if you show up to the airport and your flight's delayed or it's canceled, you might be frustrated or angry or irritated. The only thing that's happening there is impermanence. That's all that's happening. That every flight can't take off on time or as scheduled. Sometimes they're going to be late. Sometimes they're going to be canceled. This is the impermanent nature of the world. That there's going to be a crew issue, a maintenance issue, a weather issue. But if you show up to the airport with a craving for permanence, when you find out that your flight's delayed, you'll be frustrated, irritated, or annoyed. So I could give you example after example after example like this, but it's important for you to be able to see this truth for yourself. You need to relate it to your life. Because remember, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You need to independently verify what it is that I'm sharing with you. So I encourage you right now to take a situation where you've recently been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What is it that your mind was longing and yearning for? And if you would have gotten what you wanted, you would have been happy or excited. But because you didn't get that, the mind was angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. If you can see this for yourself, you can have a real breakthrough here where you'll be able to see once and for all what's actually causing these feelings so that then you can actually solve it. Because if you don't understand what's causing these feelings, you'll never be able to solve it. You'll just keep pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting expectations on people. Because it's only a matter of time before you run across somebody who does things differently than you. Because that's what the mind does, is it craves, it longs and yearns and wants people to do things a certain way. And when people do it that way, you might like them. But then when people don't do things your way, that's where the mind has dislike. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go, to let go. Sometimes when I teach this breathing mindfulness meditation, we're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath and you cut that off and let it go, come back to the breath. People sometimes think the goal is to eliminate your thoughts. This isn't actually true. You will always have thoughts as long as you're alive. Even when you're enlightened, you will still have thoughts during meditation. But the difference is that in the unenlightened state, you will tend to have a bombardment of thoughts. You'll have a lot of thoughts, or you'll have a thought and you indulge in it and you'll follow it and look at it and play with it. And then you'll realize, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So if these two things happen, this is completely normal, particularly when people are first starting out. An enlightened being, they'll have a thought during meditation, but they'll notice it right away and they'll cut it off and let it go right away. And then there's quietness and stillness in between the thoughts. So this meditation is where you're cutting off and letting go of anything and everything that's coming up. But then in daily life, you would like to just cut off the unwholesome thoughts, right? So you're exercising the mind in meditation in one way, and then you're practicing in a slightly different way. Just like a professional athlete. Professional athlete might work out in the gym in one way, but their sport looks completely different than the way they work out in the gym. So in the meditation, you're cutting off everything and anything that's coming up because you're training your mind to let go. But then in day-to-day life, you just cut off the unwholesome thoughts. So if you get the thought that maybe you'd like to call your mom and take her out to dinner or take her out to lunch, you don't need to cut that off in day-to-day life. There's no harm there. But if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, cut that off, right? That would be unwise to punch your boss in the face, right? It's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So this breathing mindfulness meditation that we did, just a little bit of that. Sometimes we do the entire session of breathing mindfulness. That's training your mind to let go, because that's what the mind doesn't know how to do in the unenlightened state. You can see this if you've ever broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend. When you guys first broke up, you were maybe holding on to this person, craving for them to be permanent in your life. And you were maybe angry or frustrated when you guys broke up. Or maybe you were lonely or bored, or maybe you were missing this person. This is your mind holding on. But at some point you let go. And you were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And that's where your peace and joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she would like to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and joy came in. But the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. So that's why you train your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation to let go. Because this loving kindness meditation is focused on eliminating your anger, hatred, and ill will, and all the other lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards other beings. So the thing that's causing this anger, this frustration, this hatred, this dislike is the cravings, desires, attachments. The mind's holding on. It's craving permanence. It's wanting everybody to do things my way, right? Because the ego's in there saying my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. Right? That's the way the unenlightened mind thinks. It doesn't understand impermanence, that there's actually multiple quote unquote right ways to do things in the world. But the mind craves this permanence. So that first meditation is training the mind to let go, where the loving kindness meditation is essentially rewiring the mind to be more loving and kind. You're filling up your gas tank in the mind. You're filling that up with loving kindness so that then you can go out into the world and be loving and kind in your day-to-day interactions with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Sometimes when people are having difficulties in relationships, they think the way to solve this is to change the other person. You might have been going around doing this, or people might be doing this to you. You'll never get to peace and joy by changing other people to do things your way. Because there's 8 billion people in the world, and you can't train 8 billion people to do things your way. That would be a massive training program that you'd have to enlist the services of many people to help you to do. And everybody'd have to agree that your way is the right way, right? So you can train your mind to get to the point where you can have love and kindness towards all beings. But as long as you have this craving, desire, attachment in the mind, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's why you need to knock that down. And there's an entire path that the Buddha teaches, not just meditation. There's something called the Eightfold Path, which is 8 individual factors that are helping to train your mind and move it towards this enlightened mental state. And meditation is part of this, but there's many other components to it as well. And this loving kindness meditation is there to rewire your mind to be more loving and kind, so that now when you're around mom and dad, when you're around your family, friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, and people like this, that you can be more loving and kind, because that's where the real transformation is going to occur. If you go around constantly trying to change other people, you will never get to peace and joy, because not everyone's going to do things your way. So if you can train your mind through this Eightfold Path over a consistent long-term period, through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, you can completely transform your mind to be loving and kind in all situations that you're in. So I'm going to pause here and see what kind of questions you guys might have about anything that I'm sharing, anything you've been exposed to before, anything that you've learned in other places. If you guys would like to ask questions, either here or online, you guys can ask any questions that you like. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl in the middle of the room. All you need to do is get a microphone and bring it back to your seat. Press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just hold that up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. And then if you're not using the microphone, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comments section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and unmute your microphone and ask any questions that way. So based on the things that I'm sharing, based on the things you've been exposed to, is there anybody that has any questions about anything you'd like to ask about the teachings of the Buddha or meditation or any challenges that you might be having in your life? So feel free to get a microphone if you guys have questions. No questions? Okay, let me see online, see if we have any questions. Sometimes people are shy. That's part of the unenlightened mind too. They're shy. The mind is shy. Okay, I don't see any questions online either. So if nobody has questions, what I'm going to end up doing is just ending class, because I'm here to help you guys. And if you guys don't have any questions, then I'll just end class here. But let me just check one more time. Is there any questions you guys have? No questions? Okay. Usually it takes one person and break the ice, and then there's all kinds of questions that come out. All right. So what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to understand the path to enlightenment. If you'd like to learn more, there's opportunities for you to do that. I suggest people start with this first book. It's titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can actually get this for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, and we'll use those funds to purchase more books. Or if your country has access to Amazon, you can order it on Amazon. We have a program on Sundays and Wednesdays where I gradually help students learn the path to enlightenment. We're actually going to be restarting this program from the very beginning on January 4th. You don't need to start at the beginning, but oftentimes students like to start at the beginning. You can actually start now if you'd like and gradually learn the path to enlightenment. So the first book is really the best place to get started. And it's important to understand that there's no belief in these teachings, that you're learning, growing, and developing as an individual, becoming a better and better human being. And the teachings of the Buddha are very unique in that you can actually see the teachings improving the condition of your mind in your life, because you're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. You're actually learning, growing, and developing in this life, seeing your mind move closer and closer to peace and joy, because you know in situations where you were once angry or frustrated or any other discontent feeling, and when you're in those same exact situations and your mind is no longer experiencing those things, you'll know it's these teachings that are slowly guiding you to that point. So if you guys would like to get help to get plugged into any of these resources, whether it's books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, our classes, courses, retreats, you can come talk to me and I'll help you get plugged in. Or you can even consult our website, which is buddhadailywisdom.com. From there, it's like a hub that kind of launches off into all the resources that we have. We have information on our bulletin board over there as well. So feel free to reach out, because if you're interested in getting to the point where your mind no longer experiences these discontent feelings, there's help for you here. There's someone who's motivated and enthused to be able to help you. And if that's what you would like, there's help for you. And as you guys heard, there's never a time where you need to pay anything at all, that all of this help is available to you at no cost. So whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.